Down.
My hair looks good.
Call to order for the council meeting. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, the roll call.
Councilmember Bill De La Pena.
Present.
Councilmember Adam.
Here.
Councilmember Engler.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Mayor McCoy.
Present. Do we have a request for any continuance, Madam Clerk? No. Okay. No special presentations or announcements, so it's time for public comments. Will you announce that, please?
This is a time and place for public comments. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council regarding items on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction. All remarks should be addressed to the council as a whole, and all documents for City Council and the official record should be presented to the city clerk prior to speaking. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under state law, public comment matters may not be considered by the council unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to the city manager for administrative follow-up. 4 individuals have presented cards, and pursuant to council standards, speakers are allowed 3 minutes. The yellow light displays when you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. Our first speaker tonight will be J.D. Slashcourt, I believe is how it's pronounced. Okay, thank you. Joshua Payne, you'll be up next. Good evening.
So my name is J.D. Slackert, and I'm a resident of Thousand Oaks, California, and I'm here tonight to tell you the story about the little kid from Thousand Oaks that I met that changed my life. And his mom is sitting right there, actually. And his name was Luke Bodden. So in 2013, I graduated from high school in Oak Park and went to Oak Park High School. And then in 2018, I graduated from UCSB. And then in October of this past year, I published my first novel called Moonflower, which was dedicated to Luke Bodden, my best friend, who passed away at the age of 10 years old to sickle cell disease. And I wrote this book about him because of how much he impacted my life in such an incredible way. And I met him when I was going to Oak Park High School, and I was a junior, and he was only 6 years old, and his little sister came up to me and said, "Hey, my little brother wants to meet you and play basketball with you, and that's the last thing he wants to do before he goes into a full year of isolation for a bone marrow transplant." And that moment changed my life. And so I got to meet Luke and spend all of this time with him while he was going through that year of isolation. And one of the things I would do is read to him because he wasn't allowed to leave his hospital bed. And he had 2 photos above his bed while he was recovering. One was of me, and one was of Matt Kemp. And that showed me at a very young age how this little kid looked at me as not just some high school basketball player, but as a superstar athlete, his dad would tell me. So when I went to UCSB to play basketball, he was the first person I told because I was so excited to have him get to watch me and stay a part of my life. But when he lost his life on September 14th, 2016, 2 weeks later at 21 years old, I decided that in order to encapsulate this kid's memory, I would write a book about him. So on September 18th, 2018, 2 years later, on the 2-year anniversary of his death, I announced, and that is also the Luke Bodden Day of Compassion in the city of Oak Park, that I had written this book. And then I lost my home in Malibu to the Woolsey Fire. So since then, I've started a campaign called Moonflowers for Malibu, which is the title of my book, where I'll be donating 100% of the proceeds from my novel to the victims of this fire. And I'll wrap it up here as the reason I'm here tonight is to bring you this story and talk to you more about hopefully being more involved in the community with this story. As a local author and a local resident, I feel as though I'm able to impact a lot of high school students and other members with this story and help them going through a similar situation. So to sum up what I'm trying to do best, I wrote this book to help people dealing with loss, and now buying a copy can do the same. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your time, and I hope to hear from all of you soon. Thank you.
JD, where can we get that book?
The book is available on Amazon. I have cards here, if that'd love to be passed out.
That'd be great.
With my information on it and how the book can be purchased. So it's currently available on Amazon and my website. And I'm also the Director of Relationship Development for the Luke Strong Foundation, which is involved with reaching out and raising money for children with sickle cell disease. So we're constantly looking for new ways to help, fundraisers to be a part of, places to speak at. Any of those things can be extremely helpful for us. But
I'm sorry. We're going to have one of the staff meet with you. And then, JD, thank you for doing that. And then to Luke's mom, I'm sorry for your loss, but we are so grateful for the remembrance and the work that you did on his behalf. So thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
When will I be meeting with them?
He'll take care of it. He'll announce it after the public comments.
Okay.
He'll let you know.
Thank you very much.
All right, JD. Thanks, man. Next speaker, I'm sorry. Oh, next speaker, Joshua Payne. And then on deck is Luann Kerouac. I'll take care of it.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
My name is Joshua Payne, and I am a resident of Thousand Oaks. I'm going to start off my 3 minutes with reading off some numbers. Best Western Winnetka has 46 rooms and zero wheelchair-accessible showers. Trump Towers has 1,072 rooms with 30 wheelchair-accessible showers. Motel 6, Newbury Park, 160-something rooms with 2 wheelchair-accessible showers. Doubletree by Hilton in Monrovia, California, 171 rooms, 0 wheelchair-accessible showers. Marriott Marquis, San Francisco, 1,500 rooms, 10 wheelchair-accessible showers. My goal is to change federal law on the ADA accessible showers in hotels and motel bathrooms from 1% to 3% to 5%. By putting this in place, the goal is to allow the ADA to sue hotels and motels up to $1,000 per shower, not up to the code. By putting a cap on the amount, it won't bankrupt independently franchised hotels and motels, and will leave enough to pay middle-class Americans, the blue collars of America, enough money to pay them to get them up to code, and still putting money into the ADA Act. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joshua.
I also have the signed petition by the local residents.
If you leave that with the clerk, we'll take a look at it. Thank you. Luann Kerouac, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Luann Kerouac. I'm a resident of Thousand Oaks. On December 16th, our house was burglarized while we were shopping for our Christmas tree. Basically, I'm here to say that people need to understand this other side that happens when your house is burglarized. Basically, this is becoming a new norm here in Thousand Oaks. We moved here to be a part of this community, to be in a safe environment. My husband and I have worked very tirelessly for our home that we have to have it removed from us within 13 minutes when we were robbed. Basically, I feel that this is becoming an epidemic here, that we are being victimized by people, that they think that this is a free ATM of wealth and goods, and they can come and they can do what they want. The week that our house was robbed, there were 6 other homes that were robbed as well, and over half of those other homes were on cul-de-sacs, just like our house was. I'm here because I want people to understand that tonight's the first night that my husband and I actually left our house together, because we're so victimized by what has happened to us, and that there needs to be partnership with the police, that the police are doing the best that they can, but they need help. So the things that I would like to speak about is faster response time. The day that our house was burglarized, our alarm went off at 12:03. My husband and I were in Agora, and we got home in 13 minutes. We arrived prior to the police to our house that day. My neighbor was outside standing there. My door was wide open to our house, and handbags of mine were hanging off of my doorknob. I had to call 911 a second time, and then the officer arrived. And when the officer arrived, and it's not her fault, and I don't blame her, she didn't go in the house alone, and she was by herself. And then 10 minutes later, there were more patrol that came to our house that day to assist her to sweep through our house to make sure that the burglars were not still in our home. To me, there needs to be more patrols. There needs to be adequate police that can help. You know, it's unbelievable to me that we got there before the police did. It's also unbelievable to me that only one officer would show up. I wouldn't have gone in that house either, you know, with what had transpired. And that I also believe that we need to abolish quotas for DNA results. There was DNA samples that were taken from my home. It's now been 3 weeks since our house was burglarized, and we still don't have those results. And the detective is working very tirelessly to help my husband and I have no idea about the judicial system or any of this. I've never been pulled over for a ticket. I've never had an encounter with the police. I had no idea there were such things as DNA quotas, and that they have put a rush on it, but we still don't have any answers of what transpired in our house that day. And I understand that also may not be the case, that the people will get apprehended, and that even if they are in the system, there's other tasks that have to happen for this, you know, to get resolved. But I do feel that this really needs to be brought to the forefront, that the police needs a partnership, and there needs to be transparency here to what really happens to people when their house is burglarized.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
And we'll have a follow-up with the city manager at the conclusion of the public comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Finally, Adam Haverstock.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council
evening.
members. Thank you for having me. Adam Haverstock. I am the Director of Government Affairs and Tourism at the Greater Conejo Valley Chamber of Commerce, and here to provide you an update on behalf of your chamber. A couple items for you. First, an event. The State of the University from California Lutheran University is going to be coming up on February 1st. That is a Friday. It's from 11:30 to 1:30 at the Lundrig Event Center. The event includes a keynote from the president of CLU, Dr. Chris Kimball, and this is new this year. We're going to have a panel discussion with all of the members of the CLU Deans panel, which are the head honchos of each of the different colleges or schools within the university. That includes the School of Management, the Bachelor's Degree for Professionals Program Dean, the Dean for the Graduate School of Education, the Graduate School of Psychology, and the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. So really heavy hitters. We think it's going to be a wonderful presentation, and we'd invite you to attend. Tickets are on sale at ConejoChamber.org for anyone who wants to attend that. That was on February 1st. Second, I'm not going to give you the details of this event specifically, our gala, which is coming up on March 1st, but I did want to let you know that the nominations are open for the awards that are given at the Chamber's annual awards gala. We have several categories. We do a Business of the Year, our Man of the Year award, the Woman of the Year award, the Nonprofit of the Year, and the Volunteer of the Year. And we have several past winners in the room, too many to name, so I won't go through them all. But we would like to add some distinguished people to that list. So if there is someone you think is deserving of the Chamber's Man of the Year, Woman of the Year, Business of the Year, etc., you can fill out a nomination form at ConejoChamber.org, or you can contact me or our CEO, Jill Lederer, and she will facilitate the nomination process for that. And all nominations are due by Friday, January 25th, so please take a moment to think about who you think is deserving and fill out a nomination form. And then finally, a quick update regarding the tourism district. I think it's important more now than ever, especially after the recent wildfires, that we are out there promoting our area as a place that is an ideal travel destination in order to support things like our sales tax and our TOT. So to that effort, we did some extra ad spend at the end of last year and in the first quarter of this year, specifically on TV in LA and Orange counties. We did some linear ads, which is what you normally think of when you're watching a TV show, an ad comes on, but we also purchased a big package of video on demand ads. So if you're like me and you get home on a weekend and you want to watch reruns of HGTV and you have to see the commercials in between all your reruns, those are video on demand ads, and we did a big ad buy in that category specifically. So, and then secondly, we're going to be bringing journalists into the area. It's something that we do often to bring travel writers into Conejo Valley, but we're going to go ahead and do it earlier this year to show them that we didn't burn down. Conejo Valley is still here, and we'd like you to come visit. So hopefully that'll support us going into the coming year, and I know I'm over my time, so I'll answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. I wanted to take a minute to recognize Troop 761. These scouts are getting their Communications Merit Badge. Congratulations, fellas. Why don't you stand up so we can all clap for you? All right. And then when you get that merit badge, you can do public speaking. It's really cool. Yeah. All right. That brings us to the consent calendar. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, you have. Why don't you do follow-up? My bad.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. By way of follow-up on a couple of items, our speaker on the novel and the great story is going to ask our library director, Heather Cousin, if you don't mind stepping into the lobby and having a conversation with that gentleman. I think there's probably some things that we can do to partner together and to help spread the word on this cause, and especially the local ties. So Heather's coming down right now, so she'll catch you out in the lobby. To the resident with that experienced the residential burglary, I'm actually personally aware of your case. I was briefed on that as well, and being the victim personally of a residential burglary myself, I completely understand the feelings and experiences you're going through. Our Assistant Chief of Police, Don Aguilar, is here this evening. I'm going to ask him to step in the lobby and give you the latest. For the public at large, the council here invests a tremendous amount of money on an annual basis in public safety. It's the council's top priority, and despite that, and despite the fact that our residential burglaries, as we rounded out last year, were down about 20%. It doesn't matter at all if you were personally affected by that, and it's a constant challenge for us to continue to stay ahead of that, and it requires not just police forces but neighborhood vigilance and partnership, and there's always more that we can do. So I'm going to ask Assistant Chief Don Aguilar to come out to the lobby and give you the latest on your particular case. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
All right, now we come to the consent calendar. Any questions from the council in regards to the consent calendar? All right. Oh. Councilmember Adam?
Yeah, if there's nothing to be pulled, I'll move the consent calendar.
Okay. Madam Clerk, if you want to put the vote together, go ahead and vote.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. I know on the consent calendar there was for the consultant, and I don't know if I'm allowed to add that, but I just reviewed it and was content with the selection. So I know there were people asking me questions in relation to that. That brings us to department reports. So that's going to be done by Mark Town, our Community Development Director. So take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, members of the City Council. The item that I am very pleased to bring to you tonight is the concept of a Civic Arts Plaza Campus Master Plan. Specifically, there are 3 items before the City Council tonight. These steps toward realization of the Campus Master Plan would consist of first awarding a contract to a consultant team for preparation of the document. And I say that in the general sense. We'll talk about specific elements momentarily. Second is to approve a budget for the project. And then finally, staff is recommending that you consider establishing an ad hoc council Civic Arts Plaza Campus Master Plan Committee to help guide that process going forward. Before we talk about the plan itself, I think it's worthwhile to just revisit the Civic Arts Plaza campus. Where we are sitting tonight is on property that was acquired by the city back some time ago, and with the idea of creating a Civic Arts Plaza, which was completed in 1994. The area is large. This campus that we are working from tonight is 14 acres in size. And as you know, it serves 2 fundamentally different purposes. One is as a performing arts venue with the 2 theaters, and obviously a city hall that provides services to the public, a parking structure that provides parking resources for both purposes, and then, of course, active and passive landscaped areas all the way around the structures. And in this context, I think it's worthwhile recognizing that it is unusual for a civic center to include both a city hall and a performing arts venue. There aren't a lot of campuses like this in the state. The current value of this campus is approximately $80 million. So it's a significant investment of financial resources and time as well. And obviously, completed in 1994, the 25th anniversary is coming up this fall. And that, I think it's important to recognize that as we celebrate the 25th anniversary of this facility, that this really is an important part of the community. It's important in terms of providing a venue for over 200,000 patrons to the arts every year, as well as providing a whole range of public services. that are utilized on literally a daily basis by residents. The campus master plan would, in this context, serve several purposes. And the first purpose is to provide an opportunity for a comprehensive review of this campus with an eye to the next 25 years as we celebrate one milestone to look forward to another. Although we have performed maintenance assessments of this campus and the buildings and a needs assessment back in 1995, we have not undertaken a comprehensive analysis of this facility. And I think as many in this hall tonight have experienced firsthand, there are still areas for improvement with the campus in terms of pedestrian access, wayfinding. I still run into people that are looking for a particular department or office. So there are certain areas significantly for improvement, even though this facility was constructed some time ago. The campus master plan would serve a second function of implementing specific city council priorities that were adopted last year. If you look at this image in the upper right-hand quadrant, you see April 2018, when city council adopted its priorities for this fiscal year, which runs from July to June. It specifically adopted these three goals that are outlined in this text box. That is to consider reinvestment in this Civic Arts Plaza campus, to hire an architect and by extension related design professionals to envision such improvements, and then finally to ensure that any such plans are consistent with the town square concept. So what is the town square concept? That brings us to our third benefit of considering a campus master plan. So if we look now and go back a little bit further in time, the upper left-hand quadrant in this image, back in June of 2017, the Downtown Revitalization Ad Hoc Committee, composed of Councilmember Al Adam and Andy Fox, identified the need for a downtown core master plan. And that would provide a detailed vision for improvements in this core area from Erbs Road to Conejo School Road. That was realized last June, lower left-hand quadrant here, when City Council adopted the Downtown Core Master Plan following extensive public input. And we'll talk a little bit more about that plan in a moment, but it's worth mentioning that all of this is tied together literally the same night in June of 2018. City Council authorized staff to go ahead and issue a request for proposals for this campus master plan that is before you tonight. And we issued that in August of last year. So let's talk just briefly about the Downtown Core Master Plan because it is directly related to the campus plan. The Downtown Core Master Plan was designed to really reinvigorate this downtown core, this half-mile stretch, as I mentioned, between Erbs Road, in this image that's on the left, and Conejo School Road on the right side of this image, to create a lively, pedestrian-oriented entertainment and dining area, to consider related uses such as a boutique hotel and other improvements. And all of that ended up coalescing into four key elements that were identified in that master plan. And those are outlined on this image. The one that directly ties to the campus master plan is the first one that's highlighted in bold, and that is to consider redesigning the Civic Arts Plaza campus to be more active, externally more connected, both internally and to adjacent properties, and to implement a town square concept. Now, what is a town square concept? Well, a town square concept really is this. It's an area that would be in front of and surrounding the Civic Arts Plaza, the greenscape, the hardscape areas that we see today, the trees, to create a better area for meeting and gathering spaces for the community, to even potentially make improvements that would extend this area over Thousand Oaks Boulevard itself with retractable bollards so that special events could be held not only in the front and the sides of Civic Arts Plaza, but literally over a portion of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and also to re-envision the entrances to City Hall many of which, as I mentioned a moment ago, are not optimal, both in terms of City Hall functions and in terms of performing arts functions. This town square concept, by the way, was supported by approximately 2/3 of the respondents to a survey that was conducted as part of that downtown core master plan, indicating that the public is interested in development of this idea and invigorating this very heart of Thousand Oaks. So, what would the campus master plan achieve? It does consist of the following 5 goals. First is to implement that town square concept I just described, enhance pedestrian connections from that town square to the Civic Arts Plaza buildings, enhance circulation and wayfinding within the campus and to adjacent properties. We would also revisit exterior building facades to identify potential improvements there. And then as external modifications are made and even internal modifications on their own, to consider changes to the interior spaces here at City Hall to improve services overall to the public. So let's now shift gears to selection of a consultant, which is one of the items before you tonight. After we issued the request for proposals last August, we received 15 proposals in response. We carefully reviewed those documents and selected 7 firms for interviews, by senior staff from all of the affected departments: finance, public works, community development, facilities as a part of finance. And so it was composed of professionals directly involved in this concept. Candidates were evaluated based on a variety of criteria, including just a few of which are clarity and responsiveness of the proposal, the overall and the hourly costs between the different firms, relevant experience of the firms and of the individuals that would be participating in this process, and a number of others. That boiled the top candidate down to one company. That recommendation was presented to the Downtown Revitalization Ad Hoc Committee, which supported that top candidate. And that brings us to the recommendation for the consultant. So staff is recommending tonight that AECOM and their sub-consultants be hired to prepare the campus master plan. Their proposal demonstrated, in staff's opinion, a clear understanding of what the city is looking for in terms of this campus plan. It was a very well-written proposal, and the creativity and the chemistry between the team members that we experienced in the interview was evident, and a clear benefit in terms of hiring AECOM versus other potential firms. Moreover, AECOM has directly relevant expertise and relevant experience. In terms of expertise, the left-hand column in this image, AECOM has extensive experience with master planning, architecture, landscape architecture, even interior space planning, civil engineering. Sub-consultants would be handling that, as well as related topics such as surveying, wayfinding, lighting, fountains, all of the elements that are necessary to truly understand and plan potential improvements to this facility and to that town square are captured in terms of the expertise. The other key factor that led staff to its recommendation to you tonight is that the AECOM team itself has directly relevant experience. As shown here, they have engaged not just the company, but the individuals that would be working on this campus master plan for Thousand Oaks, have experience in hybrid civic centers and cultural centers in Hawaii, school and cultural center planning, facility in Los Angeles. They have done a number of public space plans in San Francisco, New York, Sacramento, and others. They've also conducted downtown planning and revitalization projects, as noted here in San Diego, and Pasadena. and campus and downtown signage plans, including the wayfinding and sign program for University of Southern California, as well as technology campus renovations in other both California and Washington State. The project scope would, if we sort of go up to the 10,000-foot level, would really be comprised, I think, of three elements. One, as I mentioned, a comprehensive review, an integrated review of the entire campus and buildings. The work would complement and build upon prior analyses. And in that context, as I mentioned, staff has conducted periodic maintenance assessments, and we did have a consultant team look at these buildings in 2004, 2005. It would build on that initial analysis and really look forward to how this campus can best serve its residents for the next 25 years. Specific tasks and related costs for this project. In terms of tasks, public engagement would be conducted by AECOM through a variety of media. Throughout the process, they would also be tasked with conducting background analyses and producing a number of deliverables as a result of that work, including a comprehensive site survey, 3D digital model, updated arborist report, CAD drawings, opportunities and constraints, and other analyses as well. That would set the stage for development of several conceptual alternatives in terms of how the city may want to go in terms of implementing the town square and modifying the campus plan. That would then be narrowed to schematic design suitable for production of construction documents. And schematic design may not be familiar to everybody, but in the design world, you have conceptual design, conceptual plans which start the process, schematic designs which narrow those conceptual designs to a much more defined level and are of sufficient detail to enable construction documents, the third major phase, to be prepared. So this process would both provide some conceptual alternatives for the campus, but also narrow the preferred alternative down to schematic design level. And then the design team would attend, obviously, the meetings that are inherent in the approval process. As a city project, this project would go to Planning Commission for recommendation and City Council for final action. The project cost for this project is $1.4 million. And staff recognizes that that is a significant sum, but in the context of campus planning and in the context of recognizing the area that is the scope of this project, the 14-acre campus, the buildings that serve multiple functions, the fact that we have not conducted a comprehensive analysis in 25 years, the fact that this is a direct outcome of the Downtown Core Master Plan, which Council just adopted about 6 months ago. And in the context of the overall value of this facility, the $1.4 million is appropriate. It represents less than 2% of the value of this facility, and looking forward, that seems reasonable in terms of an investment for the city's future, with the overarching goal of enhancing services to the public. The time frame would be a little bit over a year, and then that's work time, and then a few more months likely for holidays and things that the public enjoys. Now we're switching gears to the third part of this evening's discussion, and that is to create a Campus Master Plan ad hoc committee. Staff strongly recommends this step. This committee would serve a comparable role to that of the Downtown Revitalization Ad Hoc Committee, and what I feel played an invaluable role in the development of the Downtown Core Master Plan. Councilmember Adam and Councilmember Fox at the time regularly received reports from staff and the consultants, and also provided periodic status reports back out to City Council. staff envisions a similar role for the Campus Master Plan ad hoc committee going forward. So with that, again, the three specific recommendations before you tonight. First is to award and authorize the city manager to execute the contract with AECom. Second is to approve the budget appropriation of the $1.4 million that I described. Third is to approve the establishment of the ad hoc committee. And with that, I just wanted to wrap up briefly with this final image, and that is that this campus master plan, I think, is important in my professional role here at the city for three fundamental reasons. One, it would represent a long-term investment in the Civic Arts Plaza that would ensure that it meets residents' needs for decades going forward. It would also, as I mentioned, be the first concrete step to implementing the Downtown Core Master Plan. This is not just another master plan. This is that critical step between the conceptual phase that we finished last summer and production of construction documents. It's that intermediate schematic design phase where we identify alternatives, we narrow it down so that we can then produce construction documents from those schematic design documents. And then finally, I've been around here long enough to remember that we started talking about downtown improvements literally 25 plus years ago. We took a huge step forward, I think City Council did, with adoption of the Downtown Core Master Plan. Council asked us to solicit proposals. We've done that. And now we're at the next step of actually beginning the implementation of that Downtown Core Master Plan, and even going beyond it to revisit this entire campus on its anniversary. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. To my left, Peter Gilley, Deputy Director of Community Development, Mr. Finley, Deputy Director of Public Works, and Ms. Boscarino, Finance Director. Also tonight we have in the audience Bob Levy, Principal for AECom, who will be coming up to the podium, and he can introduce and speak for himself and also answer any questions that council may have. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Town. Council, they're at your beck and call to answer any questions you might have. Councilmember Bill de la Pena.
Thank you, Mayor McCoy. Good evening, Mr. Town. A simple question. What does AECOM stand for? Maybe it wasn't a simple question.
I am going to let Mr. Levy respond to that. It probably stands for the principles of the company, I would imagine.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor McCoy and City Council members. AECOM actually stands for Architecture, Engineering, Construction, Operations, and Management. So it's not the founding members. It was a good guess, but the firm is a quite comprehensive company and includes all those different disciplines within the company as well.
Very good. Thank you. All right. And my next question will be for Mr. Town. Thank you. Mr. Town, it says here in your presentation that the budget includes, or the cost includes, background analyses, including site survey, 3D digital model, arborist report, and so forth. Do we not already have plans in place of what the Civic Arts Plaza currently looks like, how many trees we have on campus?
We do have plans for the original construction, of course, and individual enhancements to it. What this would do is bring all those disparate elements together into one set of plans, computer-aided design plans, and also create a 3D model, which will help, I think, the community and city council and even staff to help visualize potential improvements to the campus and to the structures.
And in terms of the 15 applicants, how did they rank in, well, if we can compare apples to apples, what was the fee? Were they comparable? Were they close? Was there a big gap?
The hourly costs were comparable across the board. Where we saw a separation in staff's opinion, were where firms didn't quite understand the entire scope of what the city was looking for, what staff was looking for. But in terms of hourly costs, which is the unit of comparison that's directly relevant, that was comparable across the board.
And I see that in the portfolio that perhaps Pasadena is perhaps the closest comparison in terms of size, population to Thousand Oaks.
That is probably a fair statement. The AECOM's work in Pasadena was to implement their general plan, and in particular the downtown revitalization. So perhaps Mr. Levy can speak to that as well.
And would that also include the Copper Curtain?
It would.
Good. Thank you.
Is that what it's called? The Copper Curtain?
Is it? Any other questions, Councilmember? Councilmember Engler, you're up.
Yeah, Mr. Town, 1.4 million is quite a bit of money, but I would think if this was amortized over 25 years, that seems more reasonable as you look down line. But this is the 1.4 is just for this interim amount. To get us to where we're turning spades and actually moving dirt, we also have to have our building plans. Do you have an idea or a feeling for what those costs might be as well?
I don't have that figure tonight. A lot of it will depend ultimately on what improvements you choose to make to the campus and to the buildings. That will be another cost, the development of the construction documents, and then, of course, the construction itself. The city has set aside reserves for planning and construction purposes for this facility. And the 1.4 million and the other costs would come out of that fund. Ms. Boscarina could speak to that if necessary, but I really wouldn't want to venture a guess at this point because so much is going to ride on what you choose to ultimately undertake.
Thank you. And one other question as far as the ad hoc committee.
Councilmember, the city manager wanted to address.
I just wanted to add one additional point. Sorry for that, Councilmember Engler. Just to give a finer sense for both the council and for the public, as Mr. Town was appropriately indicating, much of that is going to be based upon where the council ends up deciding they want to go. And there's going to be levels of detail and frankly, levels of aggressiveness in terms of what can be accomplished on the Civic Arts Plaza. A couple of examples that were discussed during the campus master plan part of the downtown plan were creating a staircase entrance to the boulevard, for instance. Obviously, that is a fairly ambitious project, and this would be somewhat of a significant expenditure. There's also discussion about creating some sort of performance venue, an orchestra bowl or a fountain or something like that on the front lawn. Now, depending on which of those elements are included in what phase will dictate sort of budget for those different phases, but just wanted to identify a couple of concrete examples of things that have been discussed.
Thank you for that. Not having been here for the prior ad hoc committee, can you give us an idea who you would envision being part of that ad hoc committee?
I'll speak to that one as well because
Thank you.
One of the items that you'll be taking up subsequently this evening is your commission appointments. And uniquely, you're creating an ad hoc committee if you choose to act this evening on that, the same night that is our traditional annual appointment by the mayor to those various committees. And so as you will note in the green packet item on this, it does indicate that there is a pending item, and there are two council members that weighing all the different options, Mayor McCoy has tentatively nominated for that committee.
Thank you.
All good? All right. Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, to tag on with what Councilmember Engler said, that with apologies to all consultants, I'm sorry we have to pay $1.4 million before we start building anything. What I wanted to ask was, in driving through I go to England quite often. I have relatives in Wales, and driving through those villages, you see city squares, but they're out in the middle of the street somewhere. This would be a little different. Would the plans include any modification to Thousand Oaks Boulevard? Or Mark, you're the one I should ask.
The plans will, again, they will describe at a schematic level, in other words, a more detailed level, proposed improvements to Thousand Oaks Boulevard as they relate to the town square concept. Those will then set the stage for construction documents. The topic of improvements to Thousand Oaks Boulevard between Herbs Road and Canandaigua Road is one of those other 4 elements of the downtown core master plan. So we will be talking with you about that going forward. That's the entire streetscape, landscaping, lane width, et cetera. But in terms of this project, it would look at the schematic design for that section of Thousand Oaks Boulevard where the town square concept would potentially cover.
Well, if we're thinking of a city square, the physical city square, would that then be on our property, or would it be somewhere impinging on Thousand Oaks? It's hard for me kind of to reconcile those.
Actually, one of the advantages of all 4 recommendations that emanated from the downtown core master plan was that they were all under the control of the city of Thousand Oaks and the city council. In other words, the 4 elements, the street improvements, the town square improvements, west side improvements, the property on the west side of the entrances to City Hall, and this project, the town square, they're all under your purview. So it would not involve private property per se. You would be able to decide what improvements would be appropriate. The idea is that, and this is based on the downtown core plan, is that those public investments will serve as a catalyst for additional private sector development, like what we're seeing at the Lupe's mixed-use site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. We have no public speakers, so we need a motion. Oh, I didn't see him. Oh, you jumped in. Oh, take it away, Councilmember Adam.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, first I want to thank Mr. Town and staff. That was really an excellent presentation. It really showed the public and the council where we were and how we got to where we are right now. So appreciate that very much. And having sat on the ad hoc committee, I can tell you that this is a process that we're going through, but I want to make everyone aware that we're past the study phase now. Now we're into developing a plan that we can actually implement and carry out the will of the public through extreme public reaching out. 2/3 of the people have said that they want a project like this. So this is implementation at this point. We tasked Ramey and Associates to come up with a downtown master study, really, and they did. And with the help of the ad hoc committee, I think we really narrowed it down to Herbs and Conejo School Road, where we wanted to be, and we narrowed it down to the 4 areas that the council had control over and that the city could operate on. And we're going to try to implement one of these areas tonight, and that is the Civic Arts Plaza. And after 25 years, I think we need a fresh look at what we're doing there. And I think you summed that up really well, Mr. Town. I remember, I've been around here a long time. I remember Ray Olson started back in the 80s saying we need a place. Well, now we have a place. But we need to go one step further. It needs to be the place to be. And I think this downtown, or the campus master plan is going to do just that. It's going to be the place to be in the city of Thousand Oaks. We all need a place to gather. We all need a place to identify with. We all need a place to be with our family and our friends. And I think Thousand Oaks is lacking that to a certain degree, and I think we have the ability to create that right here. And I'm really looking forward to working with AECOM on bringing this vision to fruition. If we can do it a little quicker than 14 months, I'd appreciate it, because we've been on this a long time. I'll remind the council it's a priority 1 project. We discussed it in our visioning endeavor. It was highly sought after by the public. It's a citywide goal. It's a citywide priority. It has all the impetus that we could possibly have. So, and we even have the press on our side. Mike Harris is here from the Star. The Star listed 10 resolutions for each of the cities in the county, and ours was, whereas the city of Thousand Oaks, having passed a plan 7 years ago to revitalize Thousand Oaks Boulevard, does hereby resolve to see some real changes here this year, and I'm all for that. So, with that, I would very happily endorse this plan. I know it's not cheap, but hey, we don't want to be cheap. we want to get a first-class. We've always referred to the Civic Arts Plaza as a first-class worldwide entertainment venue. So let's make sure it turns out that way. And I looked at your website and familiarized myself with some of your projects, and I think you guys really will do a first-class job for us. And really looking forward to working with you. So with that, I will move that we approve the campus master plan, and that's 9A.
Well, you moved Councilmember Bill De La Pena to want to speak again, so you have something. You're on here for wanting to speak.
Oh, I thought we were at the motion area.
Yeah, the motion, yes, and then comment on the motion.
All right.
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah, he put all three. Yeah. Councilmember Adam, you move all three.
Oh yeah. Move all three of 9A.
All right, go ahead.
I just think that tonight is, as high as the price tag is, it is important because it is an investment in the future of the city of Thousand Oaks. Having started with our Visioning 2064 projects, that will be our guiding document that will help you also for our campus master plan. But I think this is very important that when you envision a downtown core, it was envisioned 25 years ago, you have to get it right. I don't see too many cities in Europe redoing their plazas. So they build them once and they're there for hundreds of years. So with this, we need to get it right because we can't do this every 25 years. So we want this to stay, once it's done, it needs to last for centuries as well. So I think this is a good start. So I will support the motion.
Any other council members choose to speak? I just want to add $1.4 million on a $80 million valuation of a building is a very reasonable price, and 200,000 square feet is going to require a lot of work. So we're looking forward to what you come up with. All I would ask is redesign so we don't have to bring in the biggest crane on the planet to change out the light bulbs on the City of Thousand Oaks sign. I don't know. That must have been designed the Monday following the weekend of the wine festival. So we'll get that right this time, please. All right, Madam Clerk, if you would put together the vote.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And that brings us to item 10. All right, is that right? Item 10, committee board reports. There's none. Item 11. Oh, 9B. I skipped on that one. Oh, there you go. General plan consultant selection. All right. It's Mark Town again, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the topic here is to consider hiring a consultant to advise you, to advise the community, to advise staff on the various elements of an update to our general plan and options going forward. So the request here is to hire a specific consultant to advise us on options for general plan updates. It's worth, I think, just taking a moment to revisit at a very, very high level what is a general plan. It fundamentally is a vision of what the community wants to see in terms of its priorities and values going forward. It's a document that encapsulates the unique values of the local community and then uses that to articulate goals, objectives, policies that shape the community, typically over a 15-year horizon. And of course, in addition to narrative, a general plan has a variety of images and diagrams, maps, etc., to illustrate the concepts contained therein. A general plan is guided by state law, and the image on the right here are the state's recently updated general plan guidelines. They were published in 2017, which provide, as I mentioned in a moment, a variety of new requirements for general plans going forward. So a general plan I think of as like a book. And as books have chapters, a general plan has elements. And so here you see a list of both the required chapters in our general plan book. At the top, you can see there are 8 required topics that every city and county's general plan has to address. Number 8, environmental justice, is in italics because that's a brand new topic that was added in that recent update. And that is to ensure that all residents in a community are treated equally when it comes to the identification and management of environmental issues. So that's a topic that we need to address going forward. The other 1 through 7 we have been addressing for a long time. And then below that, there is a list of optional elements, and every city and county has the ability to adopt optional elements in addition to those required ones. And these 6 are the ones that Thousand Oaks has adopted over the years, going back to the original general plan that was adopted in 1970. The other cities adopt other elements: urban design, public health, economic development. But these are the 6 optional elements that the City of Thousand Oaks has adopted. The most recently updated one is number 1, community forest, which we just updated last year. Wanted to mention the housing element because it's really a special element. Because of those elements that I just described, it's the only one that is regulated directly by the state of California. The state has to certify or approve every city and county's housing element according to a very rigid schedule. We are in the middle, actually not in the middle, sort of 3/4 of the way through our current housing element cycle because we have to adopt a new housing element by October of 2021. The heart of that new update, that new housing element, will be what we call regional housing needs assessment numbers, which are mandated by the state for every city and every county. And it basically tells all those entities that you have to provide the capacity for a certain number of dwelling units and provide that capacity for those units according to income categories. We don't have to build the units, but we have to provide the capacity for them through zoning, general plan categories, and development standards. So we'll be getting our regional housing needs assessment number from the state next fall. And that will be critical in terms of how we craft the housing element going forward. But we definitely have to update that within the next couple of years. So here's the process. I know that seems like a lot, but if you can bear with me, I'll try to break it down. The green symbols at the top denote key actions that staff took last year. So these are all in 2018, starting with staff's overview of the parameters of a general plan last March. You talked about it at goal setting in May. Staff provided another update on options going forward in September. And at that time, you asked us to go out and select proposals to identify costs and options going forward. And so we did that, and we interviewed the 3 firms that provided proposals last November. So the green is 2018. Now we shift to the items after that orange arrow. So what we've decided to do here, to recommend to you, is to add the 2 blue steps. In other words, we're adding a couple steps here. Instead of taking the results of the proposals from the consultants and narrowing it down to 1 and directly taking that to you for action, we've added these two steps that are shown in blue. And the first is tonight, is to select a consultant, and that consultant would be charged with advising you, advising staff, advising the community on basically what a general plan update looks like and what are the options going forward. We've already identified several options that I'll mention momentarily, but if council approves the hiring of this consultant tonight, then we are planning on bringing this topic directly to you in a study session format at your next meeting on January 22nd. And so we would meet here and have a study session about a general plan update and what it entails. Advantages, disadvantages, cost, benefits, pros, cons, and as they relate to various paths going forward. With that information in hand, I think that you will be well equipped to make a decision in terms of how you would like to proceed. We anticipate that would happen, as shown in the light, sort of gray on the right side, would happen at your regular council meeting on February 12th, where you would actually decide on which path to adopt and appropriate a budget for that path. The three basic paths are shown in the right here. And I know you've heard this before, and we've described these in those past staff reports, but again, just for everybody's benefit, first option is to comprehensively update all those 14 elements, those 14 chapters in the book. The focused update would be an update of just the land use, circulation, and housing. The third is just the housing element and amendments to the general plan land use map as necessary to accommodate that state mandated housing capacity. So tonight we're at the first of these two blue boxes with a proposal to hire a consultant just to advise you and to help conduct this study session in 2 weeks. Okay. The consultant selection process for this project, we, as I mentioned, received 3 proposals from leaders in the field. We had an interview panel consisting of executive staff here at the city that interviewed each of those candidates. And staff is recommending that the City Council hire Ramey and Associates to advise you in terms of your options going forward and to help conduct that study session in 2 weeks. Why is staff recommending Ramey? They are a recognized leader in the general plan update field. They have extensive experience in this area. In the past dozen years, they have completed or are managing right now 11 different general plan updates, many of which are comprehensive, others are distinct elements. They have conducted updates, for instance, of the general plan at Hermosa Beach, updated elements of the Santa Monica general plan. They have won awards for their recent general plan work, including awards for sustainability, for plans that would create a healthy environment for its residents. And we feel that they clearly understand all of the elements of a general plan update, no pun intended. Finally, they are, as you know, familiar with Thousand Oaks because they were the consultant that the city hired to create that downtown core master plan, so they have a sense of local values and actually manage that extensive public outreach that I mentioned earlier for that plan. So with that, staff is recommending that you approve Ramey and Associates at this point just to advise the city on the costs and benefits of general plan update alternatives. And with that, again, I would be happy to answer questions. Mr. Gilley here at the dais as well, and also Matt Ramey, principal with Ramey and Associates, is here to speak briefly or to answer any questions that City Council may have.
So tonight we're seeking approval of the recommendations that the city staff has put together. We're not necessarily addressing the general plan. That'll come up later. And with that, if the council has any questions, I see Councilmember Bill de la Pena.
Thank you, Mayor McCoy. Just a quick comment. I like the fact that the interview panel is listed, that you showed who was on the interview panel for the consultant selection. It actually will be helpful to have that in future presentations. I know I don't think we had it in the previous presentation. That said, Ramey was selected to advise us. When will they be paid, and how much will be paid, and was that a discussion with their here? Because we don't want to write a blank check, so.
Right. We've discussed approximately $10,000 for this service.
I think what Councilmember Bildapena was getting at was the broader costs associated, and that will be dictated by the direction that the council ends up going.
Both. So this tonight, the advice that we will be getting will cost us about $10,000, and then based on their recommendations, depending what we choose, the price tag will go up, obviously.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Jones?
Yeah, pardon my ignorance about Measure E. I've never quite understood it. Does this have any does Measure E have any implications? If we change the zoning, do we ever have to go to a vote of the people now? Or?
Well, Measure E, again, as you know, set a no net increase threshold for residential capacity and commercial acreage, as long as it never exceeds what existed on November 5th, 1996, when Measure E was adopted. So we are, at this point, well under that capacity. This general plan update, if you were to go with the focused or the comprehensive update, that would necessitate, it would obviously involve a review of the general plan land use element, which is that map that we all know and love. Yeah. And it would identify areas that could be adjusted in terms of density downward. It could identify other areas that could be adjusted upward. And I don't know what that outcome would be right now, of course. But any adjustments to that general plan land use map, the key is that it would be based on broad public input. So it would be, again, a reflection of community values. It would be a reflection of if any growth needs to occur because of state mandates, where that would occur in the community. So I see it as there's a relationship to Measure E, but it's distinct in the context of it's really broad-based, it's community-based, and we don't know exactly which direction it will go. But if you look at our community, we have an extensive open space system. We have a variety of established neighborhoods. We have limited areas for development and redevelopment. So as we think about this going forward, I anticipate that we will focus on these areas, the green fields, as we call them. There are very few of those left anymore for any development, as you know. And then other areas that could be potentially redeveloped. And that's what we're seeing, of course. The projects that we've brought before you recently have almost entirely involved redevelopment of existing properties.
Yeah, I don't want to spend the evening having you explain Measure E to me, but I just wonder, is there anything that triggers a vote of the people that might happen as a result of these studies?
I could probably answer that. Again, as Mr. Town explained, Measure E establishes a baseline of how much development as far as residential capacity and commercial acreage can be approved by the City Council through general plan amendments. So zone changes are not subject to Measure E, only general plan amendments. That's the first important thing to remember. The second important thing is that if you adopt a general plan amendment or a comprehensive general plan that exceeds that baseline set forth in 1996, then it would require a vote of the people. If the general plan, whether it's via individual general plan amendments to comply with our housing element obligations or through a comprehensive general plan, in either case, if it exceeds that general plan capacity baseline.
You're talking about residents? You're talking about capacity of dwelling units?
Units, absolutely. I'm sorry, residential units.
Yeah.
So if the general plan, whether it's done by individual general plan amendments for a particular piece of property, or whether it's a comprehensive general plan including the entire land use element, under those two options. If the residential baseline exceeds what was adopted in 1996, it would require a vote of the people.
Okay.
But if it doesn't, then it doesn't require a vote
So
of the people.
would that influence your thinking in this process to not do something that would require the people, or would you like to have a vote of the people?
It's really not a matter of do you want one. I think
Well,
that
I mean,
one
we
of the
could do something that might trigger it, I'm saying.
Absolutely,
Or do
but
we want to avoid doing something that would trigger it? Or does that enter into the planning?
I think that's part of the public outreach and the strategy. It's not a question that staff can answer. It's the strategy. If there's a willingness on the part of the council or a desire on the part of the council to go to the vote of the people, then by all means that's what will happen. If there isn't, then we just have to remember those parameters.
Well, could I
But it's really
rephrase that?
based on public outreach.
You're saying that if we found a proposal that we really liked, that we thought would really enhance Thousand Oaks and be beneficial to all concerned, that it could trigger a vote of the people if we exceeded this threshold.
Right.
And that would then be one of the criteria we would take into consideration.
Well, and that's one of the things that again tonight, we kind of strayed far right of what we're talking about. Tonight is just choosing the consultant, but those are some of the questions and issues that are going to have to be addressed as the council decides what avenue, what option to pursue.
Tonight we're choosing
just
a consultant.
choosing the
I understand. I just
That's
wondered what the implications were for what we're doing. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember de la Pena?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. I did want to weigh in because it's conceivable that with the recommendations that will be forthcoming over the next few months and the extensive community outreach that will be done, that we could have a vote of the people on the general plan update, regardless of the number of units, just to have. I think Mayor Fox said that at the State of the City address that any general plan update should have a vote of the people, just so that everybody approves of what we're doing, correct? Regardless of whether it changes the baseline.
Again, it's always an option for the city council to do that. Again, that's on step, 321. We're at step 2.
May I just agree with what Councilwoman De La Pena just said? Thank you.
You both good? Because
Yes.
we're looking for a motion here to approve the consultant. Councilmember Bill de la Pena.
Move to approve the recommendation to select Ramey and Associates as a consultant to advise us.
Madam Clerk, will you prepare the vote?
Comment to the motion.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just that I believe this general plan update talk started when we were discussing Measure E some months back, and it became apparent that the land use element provided for a lot more housing than we would ever reasonably need. So the thought was that maybe we'd have to take a look at that and revise that. Wouldn't that be correct assessment?
That's correct.
Okay. So that's where this all came from. And I would only ask Ramey, presuming we pick Ramey, which sounds like we probably will, there's 3 options on the table. I, for one, want to know the ins and out of all 3, not just 2, all 3 of them, in an unbiased approach as far as the pros and cons. And I think it's important that we look at not only the comprehensive update, the focused update, but just if we just happen to do the revision of the land use element for the RETA numbers. I want to be sure we see all 3. So, but with that, did we have a motion? Did you?
Yep.
I support the motion.
Let's vote.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item 10, we have nothing. Item 11, nothing. And it brings us to item 12, City Council member committee assignments. And you have the assignments listed here, the recommendations. I imagine you're thrilled with some of them and not so thrilled with others, but we did the best we could. And so, do we need a motion for this to approve? Who's going to be first? Who's the most upset? Councilmember Adam.
Yeah, well, if the committee assignments are okay with everybody.
I wanted to say for the
mayor
campus.
could do that, yeah.
Let me
Go ahead, Rob.
jump in for the campus master plan ad hoc committee. I am thrilled that you're on that because you are, as far as the council is concerned, the greatest advocate of the arts, and you will do a tremendous work in the master plan for these other things as well. So, as far as the campus master plan, I'm thrilled that you're on that. And then, were there any other questions that you had in relation?
I'm on that too.
You're on that too. I knew that.
Are you thrilled?
I am thrilled, but not as much as with
Make sure you
Councilmember
have an
Billy
equal
LaPena.
thrill.
I'm not. I'm being honest. I am not.
So it's an equal thrill.
Sounds like
Okay,
every
equal thrill.
Equal thrill.
Can we get a motion, please?
I would move. I think did I
Oh,
move?
no.
Yeah, I'm the motioner.
Oh, Al made a motion.
So I move we accept the committee recommendations from our mayor.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you prepare the vote, or do we have any more comments? No? All right.
I'd just like to say I'm glad I'm on COSCA again with
We're thrilled you're there.
Councilwoman De La Pena.
And you're on the only committee that has a per diem, and that's the sanitation committee, so.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, they do. All right.
Full
disclosure. Full disclosure. It's all listed. Let's vote, please.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. And now, City Manager, you have anything on follow-up items?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next regularly scheduled council meeting will be in 2 weeks on the 22nd of January. Right now we have a couple department reports, an MOU from our friends of the Thousand Oaks Library, an item regarding small cell facility wireless, a study session on our general plan housing update per the previous item that you just took action on, and then tentatively an update from our Council on Aging for their annual report. That's all I have to.
Thank you. And tonight, we have no anything else, so we're going to conclude tonight, adjourn in memory of Mayor Emeritus Alex Fiore, who passed away January 3rd, 2002. And I'd like to read this. As our community starts this new year together, we begin in memory of one of our city's all-time leaders, Mayor Emeritus Alex Fiore. If ever there was a gentleman who could legitimately be called Mr. Thousand Oaks, it was he. Alex was elected in 1964, interestingly enough, the year I was born, as a member of the original city council and retired in 1994 after 30 years of exemplary community service. Including 6 terms as mayor, he was a founding father and a major contributor to the city's master plan as chairman of the Finance Committee. Alex Fiore was not content to just have a seat on the council. He was a true leader who was willing to take measured risks for things he believed in. Every aspect of the community has his touch on it, from Wildwood Mesa to the malls. Alex was an innovator with extended vision for our ring of public open space, traffic circulation, housing needs, our parks, and even this building in which we reside. Alex believed in self-supporting community, fiscally sound, and a balanced budget every year, a standard which is still maintained to this day. During his time off, Alex could be found most Saturday mornings sitting at his card table at the Jan's Marketplace. Everyone was welcome to sit with him, where he would answer questions, listen to concerns, talk about current events, and would help you with your taxes if you asked. His name has been placed to our community baseball fields, affordable housing complexes, and our teen center. Alex Fiore passed away in 2002, living a full life. He had a great sense of humor and a quick wit. As a bridge player, Alex achieved a rank of Bronze Life Master. He loved to travel, played the harmonica and guitar, and was a great fan of all sporting events. To his wife, Katie, and all his family and friends, Alex's commitment, leadership, and passion for public service is an integral part of Thousand Oaks history and future. And though I never had the privilege to meet him, I have been deeply touched by his life and his legacy, as all of us have been. And so tonight, we adjourn this meeting in memory of Mayor Emeritus Alex Fiore. And that concludes our meeting.
You know, you have two people here that serve.